I never expected a cup of rice to teach me a lesson about human nature. The office where I worked was not cruel, not exactly, but it wasn't kind either. It was one of those places where smiles were polite, conversations were shallow, and everyone pretended not to notice small wrongs as long as they weren't the ones being affected. The kind of place where you learned quickly that fairness existed only in policy documents, not in practice. The first time my lunch went missing, I assumed it was a mistake. I had wrapped a cup of plain, cooked rice in cling film and placed it carefully on the top shelf of the communal refrigerator. It was nothing special. No spices, no sauce, no aroma that would tempt anyone walking past. Just rice. I noticed it was gone around noon, when my stomach reminded me that I had skipped breakfast. I checked again, just in case I had put it somewhere else. I hadn't. Someone had taken it. I told myself it was probably an accident. Maybe someone grabbed the wrong container. Maybe they meant to return it. I went to the break room, made myself tea, and carried on with my day. It wasn't worth the stress. The second time, however, felt different. This time I knew exactly where I had placed it. Same shelf, same wrapping, same quiet hope that it would still be there when lunchtime arrived. But again, it was gone, vanished without a trace. No container left behind, no note, no apology. Just absence. I felt something tighten in my chest, not anger exactly, but disappointment. Not because I had lost food, but because someone in that office felt entitled to take something that didn't belong to them. And worse, they felt comfortable doing it anonymously. When I mentioned it casually to a colleague, she laughed. "Oh, that happens all the time here," she said. "Someone's always stealing lunches. Best not to leave anything good in the fridge." Something good. So rice wasn't even worth respect. That evening, as I prepared dinner, I considered my options. I could stop bringing lunch altogether. I could confront the office, send an email, make a scene. I could even plan one of those dramatic revenge tactics people love to talk about: extra spice, laxatives, humiliation. But none of those felt right. I wasn't angry enough to want revenge. I was tired enough to want peace. So instead, I planned something simple. The next morning, I cooked another cup of plain rice. No seasoning, no oil, just rice. I wrapped it carefully, as usual, and placed it in the fridge. But this time, I added something new to my routine. In my bag, I packed a single sachet of instant soup, one meant for a cup. I also packed a bowl and a spoon. That was it. No labels, no warnings, no traps. Just preparation. When lunchtime came, I opened the fridge. The rice was still there. I smiled to myself, transferred it into my bowl, added the soup mix, poured boiling water over it, and waited. Within minutes, I had a warm, comforting meal, simple, filling, and entirely mine. It wasn't fancy, but it tasted like quiet victory. The following day, the rice was gone. I didn't panic. I didn't feel angry. I took out my bowl, poured hot water into it, added the soup sachet, and sat down to eat. While others complained about deadlines and management, I enjoyed my lunch, knowing I had lost nothing. That was the moment I realized something important. The theft only worked if I allowed it to ruin my day. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern became clear. Some days the rice remained untouched. Other days it disappeared. But it didn't matter anymore. Either way, I ate. What surprised me most was how quickly the stealing stopped. By the third or fourth time, the rice stayed where it was, week after week, untouched. Whoever had been taking it seemed to lose interest. Maybe plain rice wasn't exciting enough. Maybe the mystery was gone. Or maybe, just maybe, they realized there was no reaction to feed on. People often imagine that justice must be allowed to be effective, that wrongs must be punished dramatically, publicly. But sometimes, the quiet solutions work best. One afternoon, as I was washing my bowl in the break room sink, a coworker I barely spoke to stood beside me. She hesitated before speaking. "Did someone use to take your lunch?" she asked. I nodded. "They stopped," she said almost thoughtfully. "Funny how that works." I smiled but didn't explain. There was no need. What stayed with me long after was not the theft, but the realization of how easily small acts of dishonesty become normalized when no one pushes back, or worse, when people expect retaliation instead of resilience. I never found out who took my rice. And honestly, I never wanted to. Because in the end, the story wasn't about stolen food. It was about choosing calm over conflict, preparation over paranoia, and dignity over drama. I still bring plain rice sometimes. And I still keep a soup sachet in my bag. Not because I expect it to be stolen, but because I've learned that being ready is better than being bitter.